Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the hearing. This is the May 21st, 2026 Placer County Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee hearing. My name is Crystal Jacobson, and I will be the hearing officer for today's meeting. I want to first start by providing some information about participation in the hearing process today. The Planning Commission hearing room and Zoom is open to attendance to today's hearing. So we are taking comments in person as well as online. Please also be advised that today's hearing is being recorded and will be available on the county's website under the Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee agenda. Public comments will be offered today for each item, and it'll be offered again, in person and available online, and so we'll monitor that up here. When providing public comments, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and then begin your comments, and you will have 3 minutes to provide comments, and there's a timer on the podium here. So just so that everyone understands how it works, first, when I am going through the agenda and bringing up items on the agenda, I will ask for staff to give their presentation on the item. I will then ask the applicant, owner, or representative to come to the podium, state their name for the record, and provide any additional information that they would like to be considered today. And then after that, I will open it up to public comment before closing the hearing and taking action on items. So before we begin reviewing the items listed on the agenda, what we're going to do is open the floor to public comment on any matter that is not included on the agenda. So again, for agenda items, folks in the room will have an opportunity to speak on those items as they come up. But this right now is an opportunity for anyone that wishes to provide public comments on any item that is not on the agenda. So with that, I'm going to open it up and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment. Okay, seeing none. Do we have anybody on Zoom that wishes to provide comment on any items not on the...
I see no hands raised.
Okay. So I'm going to close public comment then, and the next item on the agenda is to take up our consent calendar. So these consent items are listed on the last page of the agenda. All the items will be approved by a single vote. But before I get to that, I want to ask if there's anyone that wishes to pull an item from consent before taking action. So is there anyone in the room that wishes to pull any of the items on consent? And again, these are items 8 through 13 on the agenda. Anybody in the room that wishes to pull them? Anybody online that wishes to pull consent items?
I see no hands raised.
And any staff? Doesn't look like staff has anything either. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and approve the consent agenda. So I'm approving items 8 through 13 as outlined in each of those staff reports. So again, for folks in the room and online, I want you to understand that items 8 through 13 on the agenda I have taken action on. They have all been approved. So if there's anybody waiting in the room or online for items 8 through 13, those items are complete. And you don't need to stay through the hearing anymore. I like to say that because we've had some folks sit through the whole hearing and not understand that. So again, the consent item has been approved, and we're going to move on now to item number 1 on today's agenda. And I'm gonna wait just a minute here as I just need to kind of get my materials together. Okay. So we're now going to move on to the 10 o'clock timed item. This is item number 1 on the agenda. It's the Hutchinson Minor Land Division. It's PLN 24-00056. And I have not seen any public comment. I do have an errata that has been provided by staff for this item for the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. So I've got a copy of that, but I don't see any public comments that have come in. But I'm going to turn to staff to provide a report on the matter, and if there have been comments that have come in, just let me know, and we'll take it from there. So I'm going to turn to planning staff.
Thank you, Parcel Review Committee Chair, Ms. Jacobson. Ms. R. Slim, Senior Planner presenting. Staff requests that the Parcel Review Chairperson conduct a public hearing to consider a request to subdivide a 40.11 acre property into two parcels through a minor land division application, PLN 24-0056, and take the following actions. A, determine that the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 202-6040133 is adequate to satisfy the requirements of California Environmental Quality Act and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigated monitoring and reporting program based on the findings contained in the report. B, approve a minor land division to subdivide a 40.11 acre property into two parcels consisting of 20.11 acres for parcel 1 and 20 acres for parcel 2 in accordance with Placer County Code Section 16.20.030, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. For background, the subject property is approximately 40 acres and is zoned FBX 10 acre minimum, which is farm combining minimum parcel size of 10 acres, and FBX 20 acre minimum, farming combining minimum parcel size of 20 acres. The site is located at 3945 the Courtney Road in unincorporated Lincoln area. The topography of the site is undulating with areas of vegetation and does have a stream that flows across the lower length of the property. The current land use is agriculture and is developed with a barn, which will be on proposed parcel 2. Livestock, pasture, and undeveloped open space as well. The site is currently served by well water and a septic sanitation system. For analysis, the proposal is consistent with both the farm combining minimum 10 and 20 acre zones, as the proposed parcels have a minimum area of 20 acres and a minimum lot width of 235 feet at the smallest dimension, exceeding the 200 linear foot requirement. Further, the site's general plan land use designation, agricultural timberland 20 acre minimum and agricultural timberland 10 acre minimum, which is consistent with both FBX 10 acre and FBX 20 acre minimum zone districts. In these zone districts, residential uses are permissible with a minimum parcel size of 10 or 20 acres depending on the designation. The proposed two lots are at least 20 acres, consistent with the minimum acreage requirement in the combining minimum building site of 20 acres, the zoning designation, and a minimum lot width of 235 linear feet or greater. The proposed MLD conforms to the requirements set forth in the Placer County General Plan, the Placer County Zoning Ordinance, and the Subdivision Map Act. Additionally, staff have reviewed the proposed project pursuant to sections 15070 of the CEQA guidelines and section 18.16.010 negative declarations of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance by preparing a mitigated negative declaration, analyzing all potential project impacts, and found that the project may have a significant impact on the environment, specifically under the following environmental areas: biological resources, geology and soils, hydrology and water quality, noise, and tribal cultural resources. However, by incorporating specific mitigation measures, the impacts will be reduced to a less than significant effect. This analysis is discussed in the staff report and at a greater length in the MND document. As stated earlier, there is an erratum for that as well. Therefore, based on the analysis contained in the staff report, staff recommends that the Parcel Review Committee chairperson take the following actions. 1, determine that the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 202-6040133, is adequate to satisfy the requirements of California Environmental Quality Act and adopt the mitigated negative declaration based on the following findings. A, the mitigated negative declaration for the Hutchinson Minor Land Division has been prepared as required by law with the incorporation of all mitigation measures. The property or the project is not expected to cause any significant adverse impacts. B, there is no substantial evidence in the record as a whole that the project is, as revised and mitigated, may have a significant effect on the environment. C, the mitigated negative declaration as adopted for the project reflects the independent judgment and analysis of Placer County, which has exercised overall control and direction of its preparation. And D, the custodian of the records for the project is Placer County Planning Director, 3091 County Center Drive, Suite 140, Auburn, California, 95603. And 2, approve a land division, minor land division to subdivide a 40.11 acre property into 2 parcels consisting of 20.11 acres for parcel 1 and 20 acres for parcel 2 in accordance with Placer County Code Section 16.20.030, subject to the conditions of approval and based on the following findings. A, the proposed Hutchinson Minor Land Division, PLN 24-00056, is consistent with the objectives, policies, general land use, and programs as specified in the Placer County General Plan, as discussed in the staff report. The design and required improvements of the proposed subdivision are also consistent with said plans and applicable county ordinances. The site of the proposed parcel map is physically suitable for the type and proposed density of the development. C, the proposed parcel map and associated improvements are not likely to cause substantial environmental damage or substantially and avoidably injure fish or wildlife or their habitat. The program is required to comply with the Placer County Conservation Program. D, the proposed parcel map and associated improvements are not likely to cause serious health problems. E, the proposed parcel map and associated improvements will not conflict with easements acquired by the public at large for access through or use of the property within the proposed subdivision. And F, the proposed parcel map meets the provisions of Chapter 16 of the County Code as to provisions for its design, improvements, and it's consistent with the all applicable Subdivision Map Act requirements. This concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions.
Great, thank you. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I'm going to turn to environmental health. Do you have any comments for the record?
Good morning, Ms. Jacobson. No comments. Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation subject to our conditions of approval in the staff report.
Okay, great, thank you. And moving on to engineering and surveying. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Engineering and surveying also supports staff's recommendation with the conditions of approval.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I am now going to go ahead and turn to the owner, applicant, or representative, if they are here and like to come to the podium, state your name for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Juanita Mathis. I'm with Mathis Land Surveying.
Good morning. I just wanted to see, number one, have you been provided the materials, the conditions of approval for the project? So
I believe I have, yes.
Okay, and you're comfortable with them as prepared?
Yes.
Okay. And then also just see, do you have anything else that you would like to add to the record for me to consider?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. You can go ahead and take a seat. Okay, so this is a public hearing. I'm going to open the hearing and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this item. Okay, anyone on Zoom that wishes to provide comment on this item?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to take action. I have considered staff's report on this item and concur with their findings. And I am going to take action to first determine that the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 2026040133, is adequate to satisfy the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program based on the findings outlined here today by staff and contained in the staff report. And then I'm also going to take action to approve the minor land division to subdivide the property, the 40.11 acre property, into 2 parcels in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1620.030, and that action is subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report. I also would like to note that my action related to the adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program also includes adoption of the erratum that was provided today by staff, which just changes some timing triggers in 5 of the mitigation measures. So 6 of the mitigation measures. So with that concludes my action on this. But I do want to point out that since we didn't have anybody that provided comment on this, I can waive the appeal period. So the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. And so the appeal period is waived. You're free to go and start implementing your project. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to move on to item number 2 on the agenda. This is the 1005 item. It is the Alpine Circle Road Monopole Facility. It's an administrative review permit, PLN 26-00053, and it does look like staff is asking for continuance of this item. I did want to point out real quick, we did get public comment on this. In fact, we've got a number of letters in support and actually in opposition to this. We have our Tahoe staff member, Christy Beckler, on Zoom. It looks like you're up in the Tahoe office. So thanks for being here, Christy. I'm going to go ahead and turn to you for just a brief report on your request for continuance.
Good morning, Ms. Jacobson. Hi, I'm Christy Becker, Staff Services Analyst presenting. Staff requests that this item be continued to allow time to supplement this application. To ensure adequate hearing notice is provided for the June 18th hearing, we respectfully ask that renoticing of this application be required. Thank you.
Okay, great. I am going to go ahead and turn to just see, I don't think we'd have comments from environmental health. Okay, looks like not. And engineering and surveying. Okay. So with that, it is a public hearing. Again, the request considered today for this item is a continuance to the from today's meeting to the June meeting. So it's a June 18th, 2026 hearing. And so, so that is what is being considered today. So what I want to do is see if there's anybody in the, well, first I'm going to open it up as the property owner, applicant, or representative here or on Zoom and wishes to provide comment. Nobody online? No? Okay. Seeing none, it is a public hearing, so now I'm going to open up the hearing and see if there's anybody in the room that wishes to comment on the request for the continuance, or anybody online that wishes to provide comment. None?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Okay, this is a Tahoe item, so I wanted to make sure we didn't have anybody online for that.
I see a hand
Oh, we
raised
do.
now.
Okay. Looks like Teresa Smith is online and wants to provide comment. Again, the request today is just for the continuance, but feel free to provide comment on that.
Yeah, so thank you. I just wanted to see if there was a possibility of meeting at a different time. I'm not going to be able to be present on the 18th, and just wondered if we could push it back like a week or two so I could be there. But I'm happy to be online as well.
Yeah, so we hold these hearings once a month, and so it's kind of a set agenda. So I don't have the opportunity to just select any date. It is on a sort of a schedule. But we do, we offer up the Zoom as a way to provide flexibility to folks to be able to Zoom in and provide comment. So I think we're going to go ahead and stick with that June 18th date on this one. But I appreciate your comment on that. And then also I just want to point out, we also welcome written comments as well. And as I mentioned, we do have a number of them on this item, both in support and in opposition. So, okay, any other comments on this item?
I see no other hands raised.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and take action and support staff in their recommendation to continue this. So I'm going to continue the item to the June 18th zoning administrator hearing. And I want to note that this item will be scheduled at any time after 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock or any time thereafter. So it could be 10:10, it could be 10:05, but it'll be 10 o'clock or any time after. And that concludes this item. Thank you, Christy, for being here, and we will see you in June on that item. Okay, we're going to move on now to item number 3 on today's agenda. This is the 1010 item, and we're running a little bit behind. Sorry, folks. This is the Verizon Wireless Tower Extension Minor Use Permit, PLN 26-00068. I did want to point out I have not seen any public comment on this item, but I do have a copy here of another errata to condition number 5. So staff is requesting a minor change, it looks like, to condition number 5. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn to staff for a report out on this item, and you can speak to that errata that you're proposing.
Thank you, zoning administrator. Ms. Jacobson, Ms. Arslem, senior planner, presenting. Staff requests that the zoning administrator conduct a public hearing to consider a request for a cellular tower extension through a minor use permit application, PLN 26-00068, and take the following actions. A, determine that the project is categorically exempt from the environmental review in accordance with Section 15303 of California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code Section 18.36.030, Class 1 existing facilities of the environmental review ordinance. And B, approve a minor use permit to allow Verizon Wireless to co-locate to an existing 60-foot self-support cell tower by installing a 20-foot tower extension with associated antenna and equipment in accordance with Placer County Code 17.58.120 minor use permit, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. For background, the subject property is approximately 9.2 acres and is zoned ICSP DC, which is Innovation Center Combining Special Purpose, Combining Design Scenic Corridor within the Sunset Plan, or Sunset Area Plan, and is located at 2930 Lesvos Court in the unincorporated Lincoln area. The site is developed with an operational gravel, stone, and concrete supply yard. The property is developed with a small managing office for staff, with the remaining area occupied by storage of stone and other aggregate building materials. Areas beyond the limits of the site are primarily vacant agricultural land. However, properties directly east of the site are developed and operated with a similar concrete processing industrial operations. As stated earlier, the proposed project is a minor use permit to extend the height of an existing lattice cellular cell tower by installing a 20-foot tower extension atop an existing 60-foot tower extension for a total height of 80 feet. This would allow for an additional 16 U antennas and associated batteries and supporting equipment, as well as a minor expansion of the lease area, approximately 40 square feet. Since the project meets the requirements of an eligible facilities request under the Spectrum Act, it's Public Law number 112-96, 126 Statute 156, and the Federal Communications Commission's regulations, local governments may not deny and shall approve any eligible facility request for a modification of an existing wireless facility or base station that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of such facility or base station. This regulation specifically allows an extension of 10% of an existing tower height or 20 feet, whichever is greater, in addition to other conditions pertaining to the expansion of the ground lease area and related criteria which the subject project is meeting. Additionally, staff have analyzed the proposed project for consistency with the use and development standards contained within the Placer County zoning ordinance, as demonstrated by Table 3, zoning consistency analysis by the project, by project, and the staff report. Further, the facility is interior to the site and is surrounded by a compatible primary use and industrial operation. Also, there are no sensitive receptors within a mile of the site. Accordingly, there are no adverse effects to consider. As mentioned, the erratum, staff also notes that there is a condition approval number 5 we're just going to go ahead and delete that in its entirety. And of course, this sequence of numbers will change with that. For recommendation, based on the analysis contained in this report, staff recommends that the zoning administrator take the following actions. Determine that the project is categorically exempt from the environmental review in accordance with Section 15301 California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code Section 18.36.030, Class 1 existing facilities, because this is an expansion to an existing allowed cellular communications facility. There's no exceptions to this finding. And secondly, approve a minor use permit to allow Verizon Wireless to co-locate on an existing 60-foot self-supporting cell tower by installing a 20-foot tower extension with associated antennae and equipment in accordance with the Placer County Code Section 17.58.120 minor use permit, subject to the recommended conditions of approval and based on the following findings. A, the proposed cellular communications use is consistent with all applicable provisions of the Placer County Code 17 zoning and all applicable provisions of other chapters of this code. The proposed cell tower use is an allowed use in the ICSP DC zone district with the approval of a minor use permit, Placer County Code Section 17.58.120. The proposed cell tower expansion is consistent with applicable policies and requirements of the Placer County General Plan and any applicable community plan or specific plan, and that the specific findings required by any of these plans are made. The establishment, maintenance, or operations of the proposed cell tower expansion will not, under the circumstances of this particular use or this particular case, be detrimental to health, safety, peace, comfort, and general welfare of people residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed use, or be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood or to the general welfare of the county, because the facility will be maintained in a safe manner and continue to meet the regulatory safeguards. D, the proposed project or use will be consistent with the character of the immediate neighborhood and will not be contrary to its orderly development because the structure and associated use is compatible with the industrial character of the site and adjacent parcels. And E, the proposed project will not generate a volume of traffic beyond the design capacity of all roads providing access to the project, either those existing or those to be improved with the project, because the proposed project is generally an unmanned facility. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer questions.
Okay, great. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I'm going to go ahead and turn to environmental health. Any
Yes,
comments?
environmental health supports staff's recommendations, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Okay, great. And engineering and surveying.
Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with no comments or conditions.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now I'm going to turn to see if the owner, applicant, or representative is in the room. And do we not have, or online, perhaps? Okay, great. If you could just state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Graham Flynn. I'm the applicant representing Verizon on this behalf.
Great, thank you for being here. I just wanted to make sure that you got a copy of the staff report package and are comfortable with the conditions that have been outlined, including the one that is being proposed to be removed as part of the errata.
Yes, I have not received a copy of the errata just yet.
Okay, it looks like it just, if you have the conditions of approval, they're proposing to eliminate condition of approval number 5.
Understood.
Okay. Great. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add for me to consider for the record?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here today. Okay, with that, it is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide comment on this item. Okay, is there anyone online that wishes to provide comment on this item?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I have reviewed this and do concur with staff's findings. It looks like the height of the tower is actually well below what is allowed out in that site. And I'm going to then take action first to determine that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then I'm also going to take action to approve the minor use permit to allow for the Verizon Wireless expansion of the tower, as outlined in the staff report and here today at the hearing by staff. And then that action is based upon based upon the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report, as well as the errata that was provided here today, eliminating condition of approval number 5. So that concludes my action on this. I did want to point out that since we did not have anyone that spoke in opposition or any comments received, I can waive the appeal period. So for the applicant online, you are, since the appeal period has been waived, you are free to kind of execute the project and kind of move forward with it. So that concludes this. My determination on item number 3 of the agenda. We're going to move on to item number 4 here in just a minute. Thank you very much. Thanks, staff. Okay, we're now going to move on to the 10:15 item. Thanks everyone again for your patience here today. This is item number 4 on the agenda, the Aguilar Recycling Center Administrative Review Permit and Design Review. This is PLN 25-00467. On this one, I have not seen, similar to the last one, I have not seen any public comment come in on it. I'll let staff speak to that. But I did want to mention I also have an errata prepared for this item. And it's a revision to the conditions of approval. It's condition of approval 14, it looks like, is being requested. And it looks like there was just a little typo in terms of the administrative review permit. And so there's just a small change on that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn to staff for a report on the item.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Martin Romero, Associate Planner, presenting the Aguilar Recycling Center, ARP. That is the Administrative Review Permit. Staff requests that the zoning administrator conduct a public hearing to consider the Aguilar Recycling Center Administrative Review Period and Design Review and take the following actions. Determine that the project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code Section 183650, Class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures. Approve an administrative review permit to allow for the operation of a small recycling collection and buyback facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758-100, administrative review permits, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Approve a design review for the construction of a small recycling collection and buyback facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 175270, design review, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The subject property is located at 1495 Grass Valley Highway in the unincorporated Auburn area. The subject property totals 1.4 acres and is zoned C2DC, which is general commercial combining design scenic corridor, and has a general plan designation of commercial. The applicant, Carla A. Aguilar, on behalf of the property owner, Lou Chavon, is requesting the approval of an administrative review permit and design review, PLN 25-00467, to allow for the operation of a small recycling and collection buyback facility. The property is currently developed with a small office buildings, storage yards, and a paved parking lot. An existing firewood and landscaping business operates out of one of the on-site office buildings. Access to the site is achieved via 2 driveways off Highway 49, a dedicated driveway on the northern portion of the site, and a shared driveway on the southern portion of the site. The property is surrounded by a canal that flows along the north and western property lines. The property is currently surrounded by parcels zoned commercial plan development on the north and eastern side, general commercial on the southern side, residential multifamily, and commercial plan development on the western side. The project proposes to operate off of an 8 by 20 foot storage container painted tan to match the on-site office buildings. The project also proposes to provide 6 dedicated parking stalls in addition with overflow parking through a shared 18-stall parking lot with 1 ADA compliant stall. The project has an agreement to access on-site restrooms located on the on-site office buildings. The container is proposed to be screened from neighboring properties using landscaping through the use of potted evergreen shrubs to be placed around the storage container and also on the eastern portion of the property to screen the property from Highway 49. No comments from the public were received during the preparation of the report. Based on the analysis contained in this report, staff recommends that the zoning administrator take the following actions. Determine that the project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act and Placer County Code Section 183650, Class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures. Approve a administrative review permit to allow for the operation of a small recycling collection and buyback facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758, administrative review permits, and approve a design review for the construction of a small recycling collection and buyback facility in accordance with Placer Code Section 175270, design review, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. As you stated, there is an errata for the item, and it is to revise condition of approval 14 to read as follows. The effective date of approval shall be May 21, 2026, unless the approval is appealed to the Planning Commission. In accordance with Section 1758-140D and 1758-160B1 of the zoning ordinance, the approval of the administrative review permit shall be valid for 36 months after its effective date. At the end of that time, the approval shall expire and become null and void unless the time limits of the administrative review permit are extended per Section 1758-160B of the zoning ordinance. This concludes my presentation. I am available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I'm going to go ahead and turn to Environmental Health to see if they have any comments for the record.
Yeah, no additional comments aside from the conditions in the staff report.
Okay, great, thank you. And Engineering and Surveying.
Engineering and surveying support staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you very much. I'm going to go now and turn to the owner, applicant, or representative if they're here in the room. Come to the podium and state your name for the record, please. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have questions.
Okay, can you state your name for the record?
Yes.
Can you state your name for
My
the
name
record?
Carla Aguilar.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I did not hear you. I just wanted to see, did you get a copy of the staff report package and conditions of approval?
Yes.
And you're comfortable with them?
Yes.
Okay, great. And you have nothing else to add to the record?
No, I
No?
don't.
Okay, great. You can go ahead and take a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide comment on this item. Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to provide comment on this item?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'm going to take action to first determine that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and that action is based upon the findings contained in the staff report. I'm also going to take action to approve the administrative review permit to allow for the operation of a small recycling collection and buyback facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 17.58.100. That action is based upon the findings contained in the staff report and is outlined by staff here today, and also subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report and the errata that was read into the record and provided to me here today, which is a revision to condition of approval number 14. I'm also going to take action to approve the design review for the construction of the small recycling collection and buyback facility. And this is in accordance with the design review section of Placer County Code, which is 17.52070. That action is also based upon the findings contained in the staff report and what was presented here today by staff, and subject to the recommended conditions of approval that are contained in the staff report, as well as the revision to condition of approval 14 read into the record for the errata. So that concludes my action on the item. Since we did not have anyone that spoke in opposition or provided written comment, I can waive the appeal period. So the applicant is the only one that has a right to the appeal, and so you're welcome to go and implement your project. So thank you very much for being here today. Okay, I'm gonna take just 1 second here before I move on to the next item. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5 on today's agenda. This is the 1020 item. This is the Foothill Storage Minor Use Permit and Design Review Agreement. It's PLN 25-00002. We have received quite a lot of public comment on this one, actually, written comments. And so I am going to go ahead and turn to staff for a report on the item, starting with planning staff. And yeah, if you want to go ahead and speak to the comments received as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Again, this is Martin Romero, presenting the Foothill Storage Minor Use Permit and Design Review. Before I continue, I do want to add an updated renderings for the site that the applicant provided to me prior to this hearing. I'll hand it over to the zoning administrator for her consideration as well.
Thank you. Okay, we'll let you go ahead and start off with your report then.
There should also be some paper copies for members of the public if they'd like to look at the rendering.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So folks, and I don't know how many, do you know how many copies are over there?
I think I printed around 12.
Okay. Because we don't have a, we're not putting this up on the screen. And so for folks in the room, it is a good idea to take a look at that. If we need to make more copies, we can, but I think it gives a little bit more perspective on the project. So thank you for that. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Staff requests that the zoning administrator conduct a public hearing to consider the Foothill Storage Minor Use Permit and take the following actions. Determine that the mitigated negative declarations state clearinghouse number 2026-030975 is adequate to satisfy the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act and adopt the mitigated negative declaration in mitigated monitoring and reporting program based on the findings contained in this report. Approve a minor use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a 3-story, 110,501 square foot self-storage facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758-120 minor use permits, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Approve a design review agreement for the construction of a 3-story, 110,501 square foot self-storage facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1752-70 design review, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The subject property is located west of Interstate 80 and Bowman Drive, south of Dolores Drive, east of Terry Lane in the unincorporated Auburn area. The subject property totals 2.36 acres and is zoned HSDC, that is Highway Service, combining zoning of Design Scenic Corridor, and has a general plan designation of commercial. The applicant, Enrique Wallace III, on behalf of the property owner, Eric Peterson, is requesting the approval of a minor use permit and design review, PLN 25-00002, to allow for the construction operation of a new 3-story, 110,501 square foot self-storage facility. The subject property is currently vacant. An approximately 17,000 square foot portion of the property along the eastern property line has been historically used to park trailers, box trucks, and tractor trailers. Access to the property is achieved via Dolores Drive on the north. The project proposes accessing the property off both Dolores on the northeast corner of the property, Terry Lane on the southwest corner, as well as access off of the existing commercial center on the eastern side of the property. The subject property is surrounded by residential multifamily zone parcels to the north, residential single-family zone parcels to the west, a motel to the south, and the commercial center to the east. The office and storefront are proposed to be located on the northeast corner of the property, with primary access to the facility being achieved via Dolores Drive or through the existing commercial center on the east of the property. The project proposes to provide 23 parking spaces, including 1 EV charger and 1 ADA-compliant parking stall, 4 truck bays on the eastern side of the facility. The applicant proposes a reduced parking ratio on the precedent set forth by the former approval of PLN 18-00354, the Sierra College self-storage facility, which determined that parking standards for mini storage facilities pursuant to Placer Code Section 175460 are not applicable to multi-story storage facilities. Additionally, it was determined that unless a specific number of parking spaces is required by the specific use requirements within the zoning ordinance, improved off-street parking spaces are not required, as long as sufficient usable area is provided to meet parking needs for all employees, visitors, and loading activities entirely on the site of the use. The project proposes to landscape 23% of the property site, as opposed to the required 15%. Approximately 23,000 square feet of the project site will be landscaped. The project proposes to landscape the Terry Lane and Dolores Drive frontages with 24-inch box trees interspersed among 36-inch coastal live oak trees to create a landscape buffer to screen the facility from neighboring residences. The project proposes to meet Placer County's design guidelines, the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan Design Guidelines, and the Placer County Landscape Design Guidelines through the use of earth tone, split-face block, and metal panels, ledgestone veneers throughout the design of the building, and pitched roofs along Terry Lane and Dolores Drive. The incorporation of the Janus International Ellis yellow roll-up storage unit doors complements the yellow accents of the commercial center east of the proposed project site. During the M&D's 30-day review period, staff received 31 comment letters. Comments were received from the California Department of Transportation, Pacific Gas and Electric, Zoning Administrator, Placer County's Sheriff's Office, and 27 members of the public in the form of 20 form letters. That is, letters identical letters with a signature block, and 7 comment letters from members of the public. The comment letters from Caltrans, PG&E, and the Sheriff's Office were procedural public review letters. The letters received from the members of the public raised concerns regarding environmental impacts, traffic safety, fire safety, noise, light pollution, aesthetics, scenic vistas, and property values. Additionally, after the public notification of the project hearing, staff received 9 comment letters from members of the public in opposition to the project. Public comments were received regarding traffic safety, noise, light pollution, and property values. Regarding concerns with traffic, the project as proposed would generate fewer than 110 daily trips, meeting Placer County's screening criteria for vehicle miles traveled in Placer County's transportation study guidelines. The self-storage average daily trip generation industry standard as established in the previously approved PLN 18-00354, the Sierra College Self-Storage Project, established that self-storage facilities generate an average of 6.5 daily trips for every 100 storage units provided. Using this industry standard to calculate the average daily trips for the project estimates the project generating an average of 55 daily trips, therefore meeting the 110 daily trip screening criteria. Although the project proposes the construction of 840 storage units, it is important to note that self-storage operations are relatively low-intensity, local serving operations that don't generate the same number of customers as other typical retail and commercial uses. And customers don't typically access the site all at once. Regarding safety concerns, the construction of the proposed storage facility would require approval of a building permit and will be subject to the California Building Code and would be required to include interior fire suppression sprinkler systems. Additionally, the project's required roadway improvements would be constructed to county standards and would decrease vehicular safety hazards. The proposed project was reviewed by Placer County Fire Department on February 10th, 2025, and it was determined that the project was designed with adequate emergency vehicle access and access to fire hydrants. Regarding noise concerns, the project is subject to Placer County Noise Ordinance. The project has been conditioned to incorporate mitigation measure XVII-1, which limits the construction times to Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. during daylight savings, and Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. during standard time, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Regarding light pollution concerns, the project's lighting and photometric plan displays an average measurement of 1.08 foot candles within the project site and 0 foot candles along the perimeter of the project site. The project as proposed will not spill light onto adjacent properties and has been conditioned to require that all lighting be dark sky compliant with the use of downward facing motion sensor light fixtures. Regarding comments concerning neighboring property values are not a subject of CEQA consideration or review criteria for a minor use permit or design review. The proposed storage facility is an allowed use within the subject property with the approval of a minor use permit and requires the approval of a design review agreement to ensure compliance with the Placer County Design Guidelines, Auburn Bowman Community Plan Design Guidelines, and the Placer County Landscape Design Guidelines. The project as designed is consistent with the before mentioned guidelines. Based on the analysis contained in this report, staff recommends that the zoning administrator take the following actions. Determine that the mitigated negative declaration State Clearinghouse number 2026-0309 75 is adequate to satisfy the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt mitigated negative declaration and a mitigated monitoring and reporting program based on the findings contained in the report. Approve a minor use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a 3-story, 110,501 square foot self-storage facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758-120. Minor use permit subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And approve a design review agreement for the construction of a 3-story, 110,501 square foot self-storage facility in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1752-70. Design review subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Okay, great, thank you. I probably do have questions. I think what I'm gonna do first is go to other staff here before I get to questions. So I'm gonna first turn it over to Environmental Health.
Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation subject to our conditions in the staff report.
Okay, and Engineering and Surveying.
Engineering and surveying also supports staff's recommendation.
Okay. So real quick, I did want to talk just about the building height, and I think what was provided kind of helps to show the height here, but it looks like, you know, I had to print off the application packet that included the elevation. So I was hoping maybe you could speak, Mr. Romero, speak to the elevations. It looks like the building actually, you know, I've been out to the site and it slopes, the site slopes down. So it looks like it's been kind of designed to where it's 3 stories, but the 3 stories measured to the 35 foot is on the lower part of the site, and it's kind of built up into the property as the property slopes up, correct?
That is correct. So the project proposes to take advantage of the existing conditions of the site. There is a higher elevation off of Terry Lane, where the project is proposing to have a 2-story frontage. There is a lower elevation on the eastern side facing the commercial where the 3-story frontage is proposed.
Okay. And so just to confirm, the height allowance on this site in this district, in this highway service zone district, is 35 feet.
That is correct. And that is the height on the eastern portion of the building where it will be facing the commercial center. On the western side, it'll be a reduced height. I believe it's like 23
It looks to me like it's about a little close to 24 feet on the Terry Lane site.
Correct.
Okay. And then I did a check, and I'm hoping you can confirm, but the residences on the other side of Terry Lane are in an RS district, and I looked, and I believe their height limit is 30 feet.
That's correct.
Okay. So I had that question. And then I wanted you to speak to coverage. It looks like I saw your checklist. It looks like this building is below the coverage allowed. I just want to confirm that it meets the coverage standard in the ordinance. It looked like I saw 36 or so, about 36%, and 40 is allowed. Is that correct? I'm gonna double check that.
Let me take a look at the staff report. 1 second.
Okay. Looks like that's on, yeah, sorry, that's page 7 of your report.
I can confirm that is correct.
Okay, great. And then for noise, I mean, I understand that they're proposing limited operation hours of operation, so not open on holidays, and then it looks like between 6 and 7 on the weekdays. And obviously, we have different standards for construction noise. I mean, that's countywide standard, but So it looks like the hours are really limited. It's not, because I did see a lot of comments about it being open 24 hours, but that is not the case, right? So it would be conditioned, so looks like there's conditions that would limit the hours of operation.
That is correct. It's not a 24/7 operation. It does have business hours.
Okay. Okay, and then moving on, I just wanted to touch on the VMT. I know you talked a little bit about this. So VMT, for those folks that don't know, is it's called vehicle miles traveled. So it's essentially trips generated to a site, and there are different trips that have been sort of analyzed associated with different types of uses. And so what Mr. Romero was talking about is there's sort of industry standards, and we've got Placer County Transportation Guidelines that sort of identify the average trips that are associated with different types of uses. And so in this case, what you specified is that for a storage type facility, it's generally about 6.5 daily trips for about 100 units or so. So in this case, your analysis shows that this type of use would be about 55 daily trips on average to a facility of this type that's being proposed.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's using the industry standard as established with the approval of other storage facilities around the county.
Okay. And so that is well under sort of this threshold, what the county is a VMT threshold in terms of significance of trip counts, where different types of mitigation would come into play.
That is correct. The land use is also considered locally serving, which is also a screening criteria for VMT.
Okay.
But yes, it is below the 110 daily trips screening criteria.
Okay, great. And then I had one last question before I move on here. I just want to ask questions about lighting. So I understand it's gone through design review. There's a lighting and photometric plan. It looks like it's shielding light downwards. I know that's a standard in the county, so I just want to make sure it's subject to that standard, and then it also looks like there's a condition of approval regarding night lighting, light pollution.
That is correct. The project is conditioned to be dark sky compliant. We require that all lighting fixtures be downward facing as to not increase light pollution facing towards the sky.
Okay.
The project is also proposing to use motion censored lighting, which also complies with our dark sky compliant lighting standards.
Okay. Okay, great. I think what I'm going to do now, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and turn over to the owner, applicant, or project representative, see if they're here today. And if you are, yeah, hello. Please come to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name's Rick Wallace, known as Enrique Wallace, architect.
Hi there. How are you?
Good afternoon or morning.
Good morning.
I'm available if you have any questions or comments or clarifications. And
yeah, just a couple things. I do appreciate this last minute illustrations that you provided. Looks like you did some visual simulations on it. So just a couple questions. One is, it looks like, I mean, it is what, 840 or so units. So it looks like they're interior, but also some exterior
correct.
access as well to some of those units.
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to double check that, and then just ask you about, we've gotten a lot of comments on this, and you can see a lot of people in the room too, it looks like. So just curious about your, any outreach to the neighbors. Like, have you had conversations or any outreach, or, kind of walked people through what you're proposing here?
No, we have not.
Okay. Okay. And then I just wanted to see real quick, have you taken a look at the staff? Did you get a copy of the staff report package?
Yes, we've been working with Martin.
Okay. You read through the conditions of approval on that? Okay.
Yes.
Great. And then did you have anything else that you want to add for the record?
A couple minor things. Just note that most of the activities at the downhill side, the east side, where the elevators and the loading are, and that's where you'll access the bottom floor and the top floor. But middle section floor is accessed not only from the elevator, where all the loading and most of the in and out is, but from the middle floor relative to the Terry Avenue or Terry Lane side, then there is a minor entry there, just more of a relief, but that'll be probably less than a third of the activity relative to the rest of the facility, because the office is on the west side
Yeah.
or the east side also.
Okay, I saw that. And can I ask, I have more questions, I'm sorry. Is it
That's
an air-conditioned facility as well?
It is climate
Okay.
controlled, yes.
Which not all facilities are that way, so it is kind of a little different than,
Well, that's where the industry is going right now.
Yeah.
Also, the industry is very highly secured with not only cameras on the outside, but also card key access to the building entry, limited to whatever floor your unit is on. So
yeah.
very, very controlled environment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I might have other questions. I think what I want to do is hear from the public, and then I might ask you back up at the end and ask you a couple more questions.
That's why I'm
Does
here.
that sound good? Okay. Why don't you take a seat then?
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go ahead. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to now open the public hearing and turn to folks in the room that wish to provide comment on this item, and then we'll turn to folks on Zoom. Again, how this works is you come to the podium. I need you to state your name for the record, and then you can provide comments to me, direct them to me, and you'll have 3 minutes. There's a little timer that you'll see up here. I think turns red when your time is up. But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and invite folks up. Yeah, come on up and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Stephen Rigney. Before I start, I want to point out that besides the written comment submissions the county's received, we have an online petition that's 500 signatures. And because my comments are too long, I'm asking my good friend Paul Phillips to follow me and complete them. I'm a retired high school teacher from Colfax High School, a 45-year resident of Auburn, and a 15-year resident of Train Village. I'm here to voice my opposition to a project that I feel is totally incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood in both scale and character. A question for the county: how many 3-story buildings are there currently in Auburn? And how many 2-story, let alone 3-story commercial buildings have been approved by the county to be built in residential neighborhoods? The proposed project calls for a 3-story building that contains 840 storage units. There are 6 self-storage facilities in the immediate Auburn area, and they have 4 things in common. All are single-story facilities, except for a few exceptions. One has 2 small storage buildings that are placed on the edge of the site's property and against an earthen bank and a row of mature trees. A few have a small 2-story buildings on site that are the company's offices, not storage, and again, they're small. All have ample spaces available to rent. I visited all online and could reserve space in all of their configurations. Just to be sure, I called each one, and that availability was confirmed. And there's a new large facility under construction on Ophir Road. It will include 95,500 square feet of indoor storage and all single-story except for their office building. Where is the need? All of these facilities have a secure single entrance, unlike the plans for this project. The proposed Terry Lane entrance would create additional safety problems for Terry Lane residents. Finally, none are in residential neighborhoods. None. The project, in my opinion, plays fast and loose with the Placer County design guidelines for the Bowman area. The design is, quote, contemporary architecture that is strictly urban in nature, unquote, an undesirable element, according to the guidelines. The siding is primarily metal, as I assume is the roof. Quote, metal buildings and long expanses of metal roofing, unquote, are also discouraged. There's a lot of rock veneer in the plan. Quote, false-looking rock veneer is also discouraged. It's impossible to tell from the diagrams how realistic this veneer looks. The earth tone guideline seems to have been followed with the exception of the bright yellow access doors. They're not very earthy. The guidelines encourage, quote, for commercial buildings next to residential areas, pitched roofs, roof overhangs, and articulated roof structures. The project doesn't seem to satisfy these guidelines very well. The proposed landscaping will do little to screen the visual impact of this structure, and is a metal wall really the best way to minimize that impact and noise from the site? The project report seems to completely disregard guideline number 5, the preservation of scenic vistas. Many residents of Terry Lane can see the Sierras from their front door, especially striking in winter. this project will block that vista. And if I can ask my friend to finish my comments? Yes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Paul Phillips, and I'm a neighbor and friend of Train Village. I'm continuing to read for Steve Rigney. When I moved to Train Village 15 years ago, the residents were primarily middle-aged and retired. In that time, the demographic has changed a lot. Now there are many young families with small children, easily a dozen or more kids within 100 yards of the site. Because these are short, quiet streets with no outlet, these families feel safe walking here. Every evening and weekend, I see folks sauntering, pushing strollers with kids on tricycles and little bikes with training wheels. They would be less safe and less able to enjoy their little slice of Auburn. And as things are now, many drivers, not knowing that these are cul-de-sacs, end up on these streets unwillingly. They most often speed away. And the whole complex of 3 restaurants, 2 gas stations, an alternative gift shop, a bowling alley, and an EV charging station already creates a slew of safety and traffic problems. All Train Village drivers have experience with near collisions with other vehicles pulling out or onto the parking mess. And the fact that very few drivers make the complete stops turning from Luther Road onto Bowman Road, and there seems to be zero enforcement of stop sign violations in this area, greatly increased traffic-based safety problems. In addition, this project will have very negative effect on the property values, not only for Terry Lane homeowners, but for every homeowner in Train Village. Many, after sinking their life savings into this purchase, will see the value that they have worked so hard to achieve drop. Who wants to buy a house across the street from this monstrosity? I doubt that any of the decision makers here would. The size and scope of this project is totally inappropriate for the proposed site. It does not fit the small town foothill character that the county's planning policies are supposed to protect, and self-storage facilities offer nothing to the area in which they are built. Though they may generate some tax revenue, once construction is completed, they employ very few people. This site could potentially support the uses that create jobs, active businesses, community-serving services, or more productive community-based economic development. Instead, it offers only negative outcomes to this community. In closing, I also asked, no demand, that a complete environmental review be done. This project and its potential impact is too important to be judged simply by a mitigated negative declaration that was completed. The residents of Train Village, Placer County, deserve a much more thorough environmental impact review. Thank you for listening to our concerns.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on the item? Please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Yeah, come on up to the podium, please. Oh, it looks. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Linda Souza, and a neighbor had a family emergency and couldn't be here, so she wrote this, and I'm going to read it for her.
Okay.
It says, "Dear Hearing Committee, my name is Diana Green. I am a seniors real estate specialist in Auburn for 12 years. My husband and I moved to Train Village in 2012. Part of the reason we picked Train Village is because the neighborhood is tucked away, private and quiet traffic-wise, due to not being a through streets. A better use of the parcel and would fill a tremendous need in Auburn would be a real estate infill project for affordable housing and or single-level homes geared toward seniors so they can age in place. Affordable single-level homes are a great need in Auburn. A commercial entity is a waste of space, and aren't there already enough storage units in Auburn? Our neighborhood is undergoing a renaissance with young families moving in, fixing up homes, and many young children roam the streets playing. Having a storage unit built with the ensuing traffic and noise of people moving their items in and out diminishes the desirability of our neighborhood, which in turn diminishes our property values. The traffic has already increased and become more problematic from the Tesla charging station. Monday morning, as I was leaving a hurried Tesla driver was driving towards me in my lane. Another near accident. The Dolores Bowman intersection has become more dangerous since the charging station was put in. Also noted is when strangers drive in our neighborhood and realize it's a dead end, they speed up to get out as quickly as possible, which is worrisome for all the young children in our neighborhood. My husband and I both oppose this project. We implore you to prioritize people over commercial entities and preserve our neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration. Diana. And she's my neighbor. I live there also. And we just ask also for a more complete environmental impact review of the project. I want to say that even though it's 840 units, I've rented before. I don't rent storage units anymore. 840 people, usually that's 2 people with access. So I'm saying it's like 1,640 people with access. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I barely made it.
No,
Thank you.
You're good. You're good. Thanks. Okay, is there anyone else? I know I've got one person over here that wanted to come up and speak. Okay, come on up and state your name for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Corina Delgado Campos. I also live on Dolores Drive there at 150. We have 3 children. They all attend Bowman's charter school. Our biggest concern, we have several, but the biggest one is really safety for the children. This neighborhood feels fairly safe for the most part already with the hotel that is in the area. We have had one particular experience where a woman came through seeking refuge, that she was being followed. The motel brings in unsavory characters, and the scope of this project, storage units have the tendency to bring through unsavory characters. I've seen it in many places. I really appreciate the research that has been done to show that there isn't actually a need for a project of this scope, particularly in the residential area. We have plenty of storage facilities available in Auburn. It really doesn't feel like the appropriate place or project to have in that neighborhood. This neighborhood needs to remain safe for our children. The children after school they walk down to the Beach Hut Deli. They spend time there. For the most part, many of us parents are recalibrating our sense of safety to be able to trust our children and see our children, particularly after COVID, develop that kind of trust and safety. Anxiety levels for children and parents have been extremely high. We would like to see that continue. We would like to see that area be utilized, something that was just proposed, single-level housing. I would love to see it be more of a park-like place, perhaps with community gardens, something where the community can partake. Nobody in our community needs a storage unit. If we did, there are plenty available. Thank you. Oh, I have 1 minute. My husband and I both work from home. He's a therapist. I do online coaching and yoga. It's already, we had a neighbor doing a wonderful project, re-roofing. That was a lot of noise, and we have to kind of pivot office spaces where even with windows closed, we're not getting as much noise. We have so much opportunity to come together as a community and find something else that works for everyone, where we can actually create opportunities for community development that helps us feel connected to each other, that helps us feel more safe, rather than feeling more fearful and like we have to fight a development that actually has no benefit to our community whatsoever. The fact that it's also on the freeway is concerning to me.
Okay.
I would say more about that, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else that wants to come up and provide comment? Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name's Harry Alford, and really I just want to come support my neighbors. I have some of the same concerns I just want to point out, I don't know that you know how small the neighborhood is. Terry Lane, there's 9 or 10 houses. I own one of them. I know everybody that belongs on that street. I know everybody that drives down that street. With the access that this property already has with the other businesses that it owns there is already more traffic that comes down my street for their businesses than the actual people that live on Terry Lane. So I just want to point out that it may be business on this side, but it's also residential on the other side. A quiet 10-unit single-family dwelling. So since they already own the hotel, there's access to the back from the hotel, so traffic coming from the hotel. Since they put in the EV charging stations, I've lived there for 11 years. There was never once a Tesla that went down my neighborhood. Now there's 5 or 6 at least a day that go down my neighborhood. So I'm just voicing my concern because they are right. I know every one of most of these people in here. I can look out and I could tell that they belong in my neighborhood. So I know who doesn't. I know what kind of cars they drive. And I feel like we all know that. I know this gentleman here, he lives four houses down. His children play on, my children play on that street. My neighbor's children play on that street. So if it's anything too, and you're gonna go ahead and do it anyway because they have a right to do it, I just ask you, what do we need the entrance for on our private street? It's our street as well. It's where I raised my family. It's where a lot of these people raise their families. So that's my main concern, is that it is I want you to see it from our side too. You guys can do your numbers and you guys are averages and this and that, but I'm telling you, I live there. I see it. These people see it. I know what kind of traffic it brings. I know what kind of people it brings because I live it already every day with the projects that they've already done in the same community. So that's mine. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments, I appreciate it. Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Yeah, come on up and state your name for the record, please. Hi there.
My name is Laura White, and I live on Terry Lane. And 55 cars a day, that's the visits that they're saying?
Well, it's an industry standard. So they do, when you're looking at land uses, you do research on trips generated. And so that is the industry standard for this particular number of units.
In a residential area, that's completely inappropriate, especially if they're going to access Terry Lane. There's so many kids that play specifically on Terry Lane. It would make it unsafe. That entrance would need to be removed. Like that, if it's going to go through or whatever, that specific entrance needs to not happen. I also have solar on the top of my house, and I did some research. And if there's any shadow created by a 3-story building, I know it would be 2-story based on the images that were provided today on my side of the road. It could still impact my electric bill. So I know that's a me problem, not a you problem, but some other people might want to get solar on their houses in the future on Terry Lane, and that could cause a shadow issue as well.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, come on up and state your name for the record.
My name is Nora Rigney. I live on Terry Lane, directly behind the Foothills Motel and the proposed facility site. I first will say that we've had a fairly positive experience living behind the motel, and the recent upgrades to the motel and the bowling alley have benefited the area. However, I'm here to oppose the storage facility project. There are many reasons, but my main concern is for the safety of the neighborhood. The proposed circulation pattern routes traffic through Dolores Drive and Terry Lane, neither of which are through streets, nor is Kelly Lane behind us. I do not believe the traffic impacts have been adequately addressed. I'm requesting that the county requires a full environmental impact review and, at minimum, that it rejects a full access entrance and exit onto Terry Lane. An entrance exit onto Terry Lane would significantly increase traffic on a small residential street that was never designed for this type of commercial traffic. This project may not generate retail traffic, but that does not mean it has minimal impacts. Storage facilities create many short vehicle trips throughout the day, including moving vans, trailers, delivery trucks, and personal vehicles. I understand that the increased traffic estimate is only 55 daily trips. However, on a small street with only 9 homes, an additional 55 cars, trucks, and trailers going by is a huge increase. More than half of the homes on Terry Lane, including my own, have small children who ride scooters and bikes on the street daily. Several children from the apartments on Dolores Drive also visit to play basketball and hang out in the neighborhood. We are genuinely concerned about their safety if traffic increases on our street. We feel it is unfair to ask the residents of Train Village to absorb the burden of commercial traffic on streets that are not intended for this intensity of use. And these are not theoretical concerns. Anyone familiar with this area knows that congestion already occurs near Luther and Bowman Road. What the county may not realize is that this area also has safety concerns where Dolores Drive and Bowman intersect. There is no clearly designated entrance or exit for the large parking lot serving the restaurants there. Vehicles exit unpredictably onto Dolores Drive, and drivers often mistakenly enter Train Village before realizing there aren't any exits. While Kelly Lane has a full cul-de-sac to turn around in, Terry butts up against a gated fire lane, making it a dead end with little space to turn around. Why would the county add more large vehicle traffic to a small street where large vehicles already struggle? Speaking of the dead end, the county has already seen the need to post a no dumping sign due to problems in the past. People hastily cleaning out storage units are often the culprits of illegal dumping, and our dead end will be a prime target. Again, the burden will unfairly fall on the neighborhood to call the county for cleanup. Dumped debris is also a fire risk, public health risk, a safety hazard, right where our children play. My hope is that you reject this project in its entirety, and at minimum, I ask that you require a full environmental impact review before moving forward. If the project is ultimately approved, I respectfully request that the Terry Lane access point function as emergency exit only for the safety of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anybody else that wishes to provide comment on this item? Yeah, sir, come on up. State your name for the record, please.
Name's Elliot Souza. This all looks real nice, but it's not the way it is. They didn't show any of the housing on Terry Lane. This street was put in for the housing, not for commercial use at all. Just lately, they plugged in the Foothill Motel into there, which increased the traffic exponentially. This is their only access out, is the way I look at it to see it, is they want to exit onto Terry. Not a good idea. When you got 450 plus units, how many vehicles are going to come in each day? In and out of there. So that's, that's where I live. And on top of that, all those roads were designed and built for the housing, not for commercial use. That's the only thing I've got to say.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Okay, anyone else? I thought I might have seen, okay, yeah, come on up and state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Curtis Ostrom. I've been a Placer County resident for nearly 30 years. People flock to this part of California for its natural beauty, its outdoor activities, and the close-knit communities that hold everything together. But as these regions expand, towns are too often forced to chip away at the very spaces that define them. I know buildings will always be built, but it is our responsibility as residents to preserve what we can while we still can. Today, you'll hear plenty about noise, safety, and traffic. I want to speak on behalf of the environment of the community that will be directly affected by this project. The meadow at Dolores and Terry Lane has been vacant for decades. In a sea of pavement, that little field is a green bandage on the neighborhood. Native flowers, butterflies, and foxes fill it every spring. Foxes and birds rest there on their way back to the wilderness across the freeway. Terry and Kelly Lane are dead-end streets where kids play freely, residents walk with their pets, and everyone gets to enjoy a scenic view of the Sierra Nevadas. It's defined this community for generations. The proposed facility would stand over 20 feet tall on Terry Lane, walling off Train Village completely behind concrete and permanently blocking those views of the mountains. The loss of that scenic view in the open space could potentially devastate the property values for homeowners. This conflicts directly with the Bowman Design Basin Guidelines, and a mitigated negative declaration is not sufficient review for a project of this scale. We are demanding a full environmental impact study. I've spent months trying to identify what benefit a 3-story storage facility actually brings to this area. Auburn already has abundant storage. Much of it is sitting vacant. What we lack is housing. We lack third spaces. A storage facility brings virtually no real employment and does nothing for traffic or the noise. If this meadow must be lost, why not let the sacrifice count for something? housing, or a mixed-use town square that would bring genuine life and walkable enjoyment and employment to Bowman. If the project moves forward, our demands are clear. Reduce the height to no taller than the Foothills Bowling Alley. Replace the proposed tube fencing with a proper masonry wall, substantial native landscaping to maintain the feel of the surrounding landscape, and provide homes for the local wildlife. Close the Terry Lane entrance completely to general traffic and reserve it only for emergency vehicles. This community deserves more than a concrete box that serves one owner and offers nothing to the rest of us. We ask this panel to hold this project to a standard worthy of the people who live here. Thank you. And I want to see a show of hands of how many people here oppose this project. And that's just the people who could be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Okay. Are we, is some other folks that want to come up and provide comment? Am I seeing any others? Yeah, come on up. State your name for the record.
My name's Maria Baranowski, 287 Bridgeview Drive in Auburn, which is across the freeway, and I was just made aware of this project. So this is kind of my global neighborhood, and the entrance to Auburn from the Sierras. And what I observed today is that, unfortunately, the drawings weren't on the overhead, but why wasn't there a community workshop with everybody in the neighborhood to understand what it is the concerns are, and how do you design whatever you're going to build without being a good neighbor and trying to be compatible, or at least transitioning between what you're trying to build and what exists there now. And certainly a cross-section of the building with elevations would be helpful, because nobody really sees what that looks like. And a whole page of brushing it up, landscape, trees, really is pretty, but it doesn't really show the ratio and relationship between planting, setbacks, all building, all the rest of that. So I would hope that the developer would do a little more homework and be asked to come back with more answers and work with the community, because after all, this is a neighborhood that's really near and dear to the history of Auburn and certainly to my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anybody else in the room that wishes to provide comment? Hey, yeah, come on up and good morning.
My name's Warren Hubbard. Lived in the area for my whole life, as my family has. My only question would this be considered if it's outside of?
Can you direct your
Could
questions
we?
to me?
Would this be considered if it's outside of Winchester What Country Club? Would this project be thought of to put out
Can
there?
you direct your questions to me? Would it be considered what? I'm sorry.
To be built outside of the Winchester What Country Club? If everything being equal, would it be,
so this is, it is a use that is an allowed use with a discretionary
exactly,
permit
but
in this district. So
we're talking property values and the same concerns they have.
But so what we do is we look at the zone district, and I don't know without looking at it whether or not there's a commercial zone district
I understand
outside of
that. I'm saying everything
Winchester.
being equal, would it be considered by staff to have this built by Winchester What Country Club around 4 million buck homes?
As I mentioned, we have to look at the zone district. So I don't know that there's a commercial
it's
zone district
probably not
outside
zoned,
of
but
Winchester.
if it
go
was,
ahead and finish your
all I'm
finish
saying
your
is
comments.
these people have valid concerns, and I question if it would be approved any other place than here, if zoning allowed it. That's all I'm saying. I just question if it's in a higher rent area, would it even be considered by the county to be built, having the same concerns they have with property values and all that.
I will just say, if it was in a commercial district and it was an allowed use, it would have to come it could come before us as a question to be considered, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Just questioning that.
Great, thank you for your comments. Okay, anybody else in the room that wishes to provide comment on this item? Okay, and I do think we have some folks online, it looks like, so
We do.
I'm going to turn to Zoom now and take some comments on Zoom.
Caller, please unmute your mic and give your comments. Jack, please unmute your mic and give your comments.
Looks like it's muted, huh?
Jack, please unmute your mic and give your comments.
Maybe we can come back to Jack. Looks like there's a Donna that's on as well.
Donna, please unmute your mic and give your comments.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Donna Parada, and I've lived in that neighborhood from the age of 2. Right now, I live in Utah, but my brother and I still own a home on Dolores Drive, and my brother lives in that home. And I don't know how many people are or have joined on the Zoom, but I would assume if they've joined that they are also in agreement with the public comments that have been made. And I thank everyone for being there today. I'd just like to say that some reduction, if there's some reduction to this project, if we could lower the elevation of this project, if we could ask the developer to actually clear that area and put this building at the level of the Foothills Bowl, which I understand he also owns, so that it's not an obstruction, and so that we do not need to use Terry Lane for access to this facility. I really don't see any point in using Terry Lane for access when you've got a fully open east side to the building. So I'd just like to make those comments. If this project goes forward, there have to be some significant restrictions to what is being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, it looks like Jack is still on. Let's see if Jack has.
Can I just say?
No, I need you to sit down.
He asked me to put him on speakerphone so he can speak to you.
Let's see if we can hear him first, okay? So hold on a second. See if we can get Jack on.
Jack, could you please unmute your mic and give your comments?
Struggling, yeah. I am going to actually turn to council to see, it sounds like he is communicating with somebody in our audience. Is that something that is acceptable to consider for public comment?
So that would be something for you to decide within your discretion
Okay.
to allow.
So Jack, it sounds like you're having some trouble. Perhaps there's somebody in the room that has you on speaker. Is that correct? I am going to allow it. If you would like to come to the podium, ma'am.
My brother is not a techie. Sorry.
That's okay. It's hard for some folks. Just make sure he states his name for the record, please.
Okay, you're on speakerphone at the hearing. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I apologize for my lack of technical expertise.
That's okay.
My name is Jack Baranowski, and my family has owned a home in Train Village for over 50 years. The proposed storage facility and the 800 tenants is not complementary to the residential community that it abuts. And when I look at things such as the Placer 2050 vision, the guiding principles, and statements such as the Planning Commission is to ensure the community growth is orderly, sustainable, and aligns with the public vision, it is quite apparent to me, and hopefully to others, that based upon the participation of the people today, the over 500 people who have joined a petition to be against this proposal, that this certainly does not align with the public's vision. I'd also like to just suggest a couple of things from a perspective that this 110, 501 square foot facility, this is against or just adjacent to single family homes. Consider that the Home Depot in Auburn is only 104,000 square feet, and the entire Raleigh shopping center on the other side of the freeway is 97,458 square feet. So just from a contextual perspective, as far as how big is this place? And I know it's multiple stories and such, but placing something like that directly across the street when attachment B even shows single family residential on Terry Lane, you know, there's certain things that I understand code can allow and such, but I always like having metaphors and such, and some of them people get, some don't. But this is kind of like a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. You can do it, it just doesn't make much sense. And so I would just implore that this proposal be denied. It is not consistent with the surrounding area. It is not supportive of the single family residential. And again, this is a more of a modest neighborhood. This isn't like by the country club the other gentleman was referencing. And the safety and security of the children playing in those streets, that has to be a priority. Another storage facility and another one being built 5 miles away that's got 94,000 square feet. What serves the public better? And I think that everybody should be in this for what is the best for the community and for the public in general. And the community here, I think, has spoken loudly and proudly in terms of their perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anyone else online that do we see anybody else? Looks like we do have another speaker.
We do.
Okay.
Jenna, please unmute your mic and give your comments.
Hello, my name is Jenna Gutierrez, and I live in Train Village. I've lived here for about 1.5 years now, and as a real estate agent, forgive me, I'm very sick today, but as a real estate agent and just neighbor and resident, I have great concerns about this project. Just as a neighbor, from a neighbor and a resident standpoint, it's ludicrous to me that it's even conceivable to put such a large structure and business on a tiny little residential street, only having 9 or 10 homes. I live on the next street back on Kelly Lane. And to me, I don't even see how the street will be able to function with moving trucks and larger vehicles, people trying to just get in and out of their own driveways and get in and out of a street that is not a through street. It obviously, very obviously affects property values as well, you know, just as the realtor for future buyers coming in and seeing all of this going on this cute little neighborhood that's very well established is just inconceivable to me. I would like to request a full environmental review of this entire project. I don't know if I mentioned it either, just safety issues for our children. We have young families in here, we have retirees. The concerns are very significant, and I believe that they're valid to this situation. Noise, quality of life, traffic, safety for our kids. I just second everything everybody has said very eloquently today. And again, please forgive me for how sick I am that I had to speak up about this, and I really would like that full request of the full environmental review of this project before anything like this happens.
Great. Thank you for your comments, and I appreciate you did not come into our hearing room sick. So thank you for that too. Okay, anybody else that is online that wants to comment, please raise your hand.
See no other hands raised.
Okay, and I'm going to give it one more chance in the room. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment? Okay, what I'm going to do now is, so seeing none, I'm going to, the hearing is still open. I'd like the applicant to come back to the podium. And then I just was wondering if you have any response to some comments you've heard here today, particularly about the Terry Lane piece and just sort of the overall massing of the structure and sort of that through kind of traffic, you know, through the site onto Terry Lane.
Okay, I'll address the zoning, the commercial zone, and although it's not zoned residential, but the design was sensitive, or residential was considered, requirements or zoning standards were considered during design. That's why the west side is a 2-story under the height limit of that zone for the residents. Even though majority of the properties are still 1 story, there's nothing to say that those stories can be remodeled or redone to become 2 stories. So
you want us to lift our houses?
Okay, so right now the floor is open to the applicant at the podium. I need to.
So
keep
my
it at that.
point is that was part of the consideration of the design of the project, as opposed to 35 feet at one side and 35 feet the other side. And I'm hearing a lot about the concern about the driveway, and that's a convenience for the operations of the facility, but it's not a detriment to the facility or the operation. So, and what that would mean is everything would just be down at the east side of the property. There is still be that loop consideration for the circular traffic, but that's more also for fire access around the whole building. So the project is buffered. A lot of the materials are non-combustible, and that is still a lot of what the state of construction is becoming in environmentally for California and fire zone areas. So a lot of those that's why a lot of the materials are selected as such, and durability. I think that's mainly what I had to say about that.
Okay, so just a couple things. So if I'm hearing you correct, you would be open to a design change with the site circulation, closing the access on Terry Lane. Am I hearing you correct on that? Okay.
Yes.
So you understand that you've heard that concern, and you're open to some change there.
Yeah, we're open to that because I understand compatibility with street traffic, and granted, I just want everybody to be aware that of commercial facilities where the uses that have been considered for and as opportunities for development is that the self-storage is the lowest traffic generation of any commercial use. It's far less than a lot of residential uses also.
Yep.
Just trying to put it in perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then I appreciate these sort of last minute visual sims that you provided. I'm just curious, is this something that you did recently, the visual sims?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We work with staff, and we modified it because of the articulation over on the Terry side, making those projections with the gable roofs on that.
Okay.
Illustrate that.
So then I guess another question, it looks like most of the sims are kind of across, they're across Terry, but they're on the corner of Terry and Dolores. So would you be open to some additional sims and analysis taken a little further down Terry? I have been out to the site, I have to tell you that. I drove back and forth on Terry. I drove Kelly. I drove through the motel.
I understand.
So I fully understand the site and the neighborhood, and appreciate some of the comments I heard today. So I would just like to ask if you would be open to doing just a little bit more, just because what I found is that as I drove to the end of Terry. I did have to do the little turnaround. Sorry, folks, if I was in your area, but I had to turn around. I noticed there's a lot of vegetation along Terry, like between the motel and this site, until you get to, I think it's at like the last 2 houses on Terry closest to Dolores. So what we might want to do, where you really, I think that the building would already almost be blocked, right? Based upon the existing trees that are there. But then when you get to those kind of the last 2 houses on Terry towards Dolores, I'm wondering if we could perhaps look at an additional visual sim, and that's something we can work out with staff. And the reason I ask that is it does look like on the corner of your proposal, it's heavily landscaped, right? So the structure is sort of set back from Dolores quite a bit. And so a visual sim on that side might help. You know, I'm a pictures person, and I do think it helps
When you say
to
sim,
tell a visual simulation like you've done here.
oh, okay, okay.
Sorry, I'm talking
Understand.
land use talk here. So I do think it helps to, it might help to sort of illustrate what the building would look like from a little further down Terry. So, and I only bring that up because I think, you know, something that we can do, we can work with staff on that. We're, you know, working with you to do that. I just wanted to see if you would be open to that as well.
For what I understand is you're looking from a vantage point from the south end of Terry, looking towards the site from that end. And what I'm also understanding is now that driveway would be gone. So then the landscaping would extend in there, because we do have landscaping along the south of the property between the hotel and there. So it's just wrapping around.
Yeah.
And I want to point out that even though there's a 25-foot setback, and that's building setback, we increase the back of that driveway another 6 feet, so we get a good landscape buffer.
Yeah.
And then when you get and turn the corner at Dolores, then Dolores, that whole street and curb is actually, I think, particularly along Dolores, it's going to fatten up quite a bit in there.
Yep.
So we had the opportunity to put a good strip of landscaping, not only for habitat, but just it will go away in a handful of years.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was getting at. I feel like just a couple of different vantage points might be worthwhile to further assess the project. And so that's what I was asking if you were open to.
So I'm hearing for one vantage point, like I say, from the south.
I think what I'd like to do is for you to work that out. If you're open to it, that would be worked out with you and staff.
We can do that.
Okay.
We've gotten this far, so we can continue.
Okay, good. So I think that's all I have right now for you, unless you have anything else you want to add.
That's it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to sit down then real quick, and I'm going to close the public hearing. And I have a couple of questions for staff. So first I want to just note that, you know, there's a lot of first, let me say, I really, really appreciate the comment and y'all showing up and providing written comments. I really value community input, and so really appreciate you all being here and standing up and voicing your concerns. It's part of the process, and so I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank staff for their work. I do want to acknowledge that there was a lot of comments about the environmental review, and I do want to point out there was a pretty thorough analysis done. It's called a mitigated negative declaration, and while it's not, there's different types of documents done through the California Environmental Quality Act. We did do, I would say, a pretty thorough analysis, and I did read through this. And I know we sort of spoke already to the trips generated, and so we have thresholds that we have to, staff have to kind of measure against when they're reviewing a project. And so they did do that, and it didn't sort of trip it into what would be called an environmental impact report, which is a much larger environmental document. So I do think that I just want to reiterate, we did do the analysis. It is available for folks to take a look at. If you haven't looked at that, I would encourage you to do so. But on the aesthetics, I think there's some comments that we've received about the view shed to the Sierras and how this site is situated, and sort of the policies that we've got in the community plan and our design review, what design review means. This site is a couple things on that. This site is in a commercial land use, so in the Auburn Bowman community plan, commercial land uses of all sorts have been anticipated for this site. So I think we need to recognize that there has always been anticipation of this site being developed commercial, right? So that's one thing to think about. The other is that the zoning for the site is highway commercial or highway service. So we look at that for the standards. And the standards, the 35-foot height limit is set through that zoning district, is actually pretty low for a lot of the commercial uses. I know it seems high, but it was probably set way back in the day because of the proximity to the residential uses. So it's not, we see some commercial districts go a lot higher than that. And so it is low. And then of course, as proposed, they're well below that limit. But what I'd like to do is I'm going to it looks like we have our environmental coordinator here, Lee Chavez. What I'd like to do, just as it relates to the environmental analysis, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium and just kind of speaking a little bit to the analysis that was done related to those view sheds. Because there's a couple ways that there's protections in place through the California Environmental Quality Act, but then there's also protections in place when we're reviewing a project through that design review. So I kind of want you to maybe speak to that. Lee, if you don't mind stating your name for the record.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. I'm Lee Chavez. I'm the environmental coordinator for the record. And I did want to bring up that our analysis under the California Environmental Quality Act is led by the statute. It's also led by the CEQA case laws or cases that have analyzed what is actually a difficult topic under CEQA because aesthetics can tend to be a very subjective category of impacts. However, it is clear under the statute and case law that we as staff are supposed to focus on our analysis relative to actual physical impacts on the environment versus a character feel, say, for a neighborhood. So really the pertinent question for us in this urban area is whether the project would conflict with applicable zoning. And then relative to case law, there are several projects that speak to community character not being the basis for a lead agency's analysis. And then I also wanted to bring up under CEQA as well, and this is a consideration for the environmental analysis alone. The public views are what is considered by our environmental document. Private views are not supposed to be considered by a lead agency. It's really intended to be what the general public views versus what a homeowner, say, for example, would view.
So what you're speaking to, though, is our review, our sort of limited review under the California Environmental Quality Act. Now, we still have
Correct.
review through, review of projects up to the, design review requirements and the,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and those are the design guidelines discussion that Martin mentioned previously, where he's gone through and actually determined that there's consistency with those design guidelines.
Yeah.
So separate and apart from the environmental analysis.
Okay, great. I think that helps. Thank you very much for
You're
that.
welcome.
Okay, so I just wanted to touch on that just to provide some clarity. I do, again, want to point out that there is a document, there's a mitigation reporting program that's also been prepared, and a lot of mitigation that has been identified for this project. So I just wanted to point out, because there was a lot of comments about the need for environmental analysis, and I did want to point out the analysis is here. So, but again, there's a CEQA analysis, which we do, but then there's also listening to public comment, addressing community concerns where we can. It's about finding, I think, a balance, right? Striking a balance. And so on this one, I think what I'd like to do is I first, again, wanted to just reiterate the fact that this isn't a commercial land use. And you all, folks that live in that neighborhood, you're right up against a commercial district. So while there is a need to find a balance, there's also, so recognizing that you're living up against a commercial district. And so what we try to do is to address conflicts with those uses. Whenever you've got residential uses up against, say, industrial or commercial, you try to, when you're reviewing a project, you try to make sure that you're addressing concerns as much as you can while also understanding that there's always a balance to be had, that you all are living up against a commercial district, right? And so I just want to throw that out there. And so what I'd like to do is, I'm not ready to make a decision on this today, which means I'm going to continue the project, and I'm going to continue it for a couple of reasons. I would like the applicant to, I definitely am not comfortable with the access on Terry Lane. I went out there, I saw kids' toys, I saw a basketball hoop on the street. These kids are clearly in the street playing. I get that, right? And so I want to make sure, that's probably my biggest concern, is that we protect that sort of neighborhood feel and the fact that you got kids playing in the street and that kind of thing. So, and I do think that there could be, and I have, might turn to our engineering and surveying staff here. I think there could be an opportunity to look at a different design of the interior circulation that we might be able to, maybe it's a emergency exit only, that sort of a thing, but there might be an opportunity for a different design for that access. Am I right?
We can work with the applicant on what that's going to look like. Talking with the fire department, I think they're preferable to maybe it being an emergency vehicle access, restricted to that. But we'll work with the fire department and the applicant.
Okay. And then if I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that means it's sort of locked off to through traffic, and it's only accessed in the event of an emergency kind of thing. So I think that is important to look at that and contemplate a redesign on that piece. And then in addition, I'd like a couple of different more vantage points of, I will say I appreciate that the project has been designed to the topography of the land. And like I said, it's on the Terry Lane side, it's about 24 feet as I saw it. And I know, I had to print these out, right? So a couple of things, what I'd like to do is, I'd like the staff to work with the applicant on a couple more visual simulations showing that are down Terry Lane. And I might meet with you, Mr. Romero, to kind of walk you through what I'm thinking here. But I do think some additional work to demonstrate what that actually will look like as you're across Terry Lane for those homes. Because I do think there's, on the corner there on Dolores and Terry, there's a pretty big swath of land there that is not developed, and so it would be landscaped. So I'd kind of like to see what that looks like before making a decision. And then in doing that, the third thing is I would like staff to maybe open up some times that you might be able to meet with some community members to sit down and actually look once we have those simulations, because I think it's important for folks in the room and community members to have an opportunity to see what it looks like right before the next hearing. So I'd like the redesign to be done, and then the visual simulations, some additional simulations done so we can take a look at that, and then sit down with some community members, maybe open up a couple different office hour type thing where you can sit down with folks. Okay, and then also I would encourage the applicant to attend that too, just to have, be able to engage with your neighbors, right? In those meetings with planning. So hold on one second. So that's where I'm going with this. What I'm not sure of is the time that might be needed to do that. And so I don't know that I want to continue it to June. We might want to give it a little bit more time. So with that, I am going to allow you to come up and we can talk about the timing on that. State your name for the record one more time. Thank
Rick
you.
Wallace, project architect. I have a couple of questions regarding, you mentioned redesign, but I think it's just refinement along that elevation of Terry Avenue. There's an entry there, pedestrian entry. I think if you're asking if we could just replace that with just a roll-up door, and there's no access from that level and only access to those storage units along the drive up there, that can be simply done as a.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a full redesign. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. If I misspoke there. It's a refinement for sure. but something that shows that it would be closed off to through traffic, right, on Terry Lane.
Okay, so I mean, so then part of that is, don't mean to interrupt, but, and then we've already talked about that driveway entry, so eliminating that and then keeping that vehicle access around the building.
Well, yeah, except what I'm hearing from engineering and surveying is there might be a desire from the serving fire folks that we might rather have an emergency vehicle access, which means it would be there could still be a driveway, but it's a locked gate that goes across it, where they only have access in the event of an emergency. So those are the kinds of details, though, that I want
understand.
kind of further fleshed out. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I am looking to continue this to allow some time to explore those things.
I understand a little bit better. Okay.
Okay,
Um,
great. Okay,
We've been here all day.
it's been a little while.
morning.
It's all good.
Anyway, I'd like to be able to see if we can just get it, not be continued, but if so.
It needs
that's
to be
your call.
continued. I'm
Okay.
definitely gonna either can make a decision today or continue it, but as I mentioned, I'm not.
Comfortable making a
Mm-hmm.
decision. Okay, I understand. I would like to discuss because we might be able to do it within a month, before the next hearing. But I have to scramble a little bit, and I can talk to staff about, by next week.
Okay,
We
great.
could determine.
Okay, I'll have you take a seat.
Thank you.
And with that, I do know we're at the noon hour. Sorry, folks, but I appreciate your patience. We're going to go ahead. I am going to take action now to continue. Hoping staff you're clear on what I'm asking you to do. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay,
direction
great.
was clear.
Great.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going, again, the public hearing on this is closed, and I'm going to take action to continue this item. I am going to continue it to that June 18th date, I think it is.
Yes.
And we might be ready by then and we might not. If we're not, we might have to continue again, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that and give you an opportunity to try to get things wrapped up by June 18th. So it'll be continued to 10 o'clock or any time thereafter. So back to June 18th. For folks in the room and folks online, I want you to know we will not send out a legal notice again on this. The notice has already been sent out. And so this is your notice right now that this item will be continued to the June 18th zoning administrator meeting. It'll be right here in this room. Okay? Great. 10 o'clock or any time thereafter on the 18th.
Excuse me, how do people who aren't here learn about that?
As I mentioned, we are legally required to notice the project for the hearing. I noticed it. People that were interested showed up to the hearing or showed up online, and this is their legal notice now that the item has been continued to the June 18th hearing.
But if they're not here,
Thank you. That concludes this item.
if they're not here, they
That
can't hear
concludes
your
this
legal
item.
notice.
Okay, we are gonna move on now to item number 6 on the agenda. This is our 1025 item. This is our 1025 item. Thanks for your patience, everyone. I know we've been sitting here for quite a while, and I appreciate you waiting. So this item is our item number 6. It's the Winnie Outdoor Boat and RV Storage Minor Use Permit and Design Review Agreement. It's PLN 23-00390. I have not seen any public comments on this item. I will note this item contains an environmental document as well. Looks like it's a proposal for a boat RV storage yard. And so what I'm going to do now is turn to staff for a report out on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Again, this is Martin Romero, Associate Planner. I'll be presenting the Winnie Outdoor Boat and RV Storage Minor Use Permit and Design Review Agreement. Staff requests that the zoning administrator conduct a public hearing to consider the Winnie Outdoor Boat and RV Storage Yard minor use permit and design review agreement and take the following actions. Determine that the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 2026-030433, is adequate to satisfy the requirement of the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program based on the findings contained in the report. Approve a minor use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758-120. Minor use permits subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Approve a design review agreement for the construction of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1752-70 design review, subject to the conditions of approval. The subject property is located at 3840 Grass Valley Highway in the unincorporated Auburn area. The subject property totals 2 acres and is zoned IMP DCAO, that is Industrial Park, combining design and scenic corridor, combining aircraft overflight, and has a general plan designation of industrial. The applicant and property owner, Laisha Flores, is requesting the approval of a minor use permit and design review, PLN 2300390, to allow for the construction and operation of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard. The property is currently vacant and was previously developed with a single-family residence, swimming pool, and pool house. Access to the site is achieved through a private road on an existing access easement extending east from Highway 49, runs along the southern property line of the adjacent parcel immediately west to the project site. The project is surrounded by parcels zoned C3 DCAO, that is heavy commercial, combining design scenic corridor, combining aircraft overflight on the northern and western property lines. Like zoning and property likewise zoned IMP DCAO, Industrial Park, combining design scenic corridor, combining aircraft overflight on the southern and eastern property lines. The project proposes to construct 3 steel canopies with corrugated roofs approximately 16 feet in height, providing a total of 29,702 square feet of covered area over 58 spaces. The project also proposes 16 uncovered spaces with 11 spaces located along the northern property line, 4 by the western property line, and 1 by the southern property line. In addition, the project includes the removal of the existing on-site pool and pool house. No comments were received during the 30-day review period of the mitigated negative declaration, and also no comments were received during the legal noticing of the hearing. Based on the analysis contained in this report, staff recommends that the zoning administrator take the following actions. Determine that the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 2026-030433, is adequate to satisfy the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program based on the findings contained in the report. Approve a minor use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1758-120 minor use permits, and approve a design review agreement for the construction of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1752-70 design review, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I am available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much for that. I'm going to turn to, I don't have any questions right now, thank you. I'm going to turn to environmental health. Do you have anything to add?
No additional comments, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Okay, great. And engineering and surveying, anything to add to the record?
No, engineering and surveying support staff's recommendation.
Great, thank you very much for that. I am going to now open it up and turn, I'm actually going to turn to the owner applicant representative if they're in the room. Hi there. Thank you so much for your patience. If you want to come to the podium and state your name for the record.
I'm Darren Winnie.
Alicia Flores.
Great. Just wanted to check in with you and see if you received the project the hearing materials, sorry, and
Yes, we did.
okay, you read through the conditions and all that. Okay, good. And do you have anything else you'd like to add to the record for my consideration today?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. You can go ahead and take a seat. This is a public hearing. I'm going to open up the public hearing and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide comment on this item. Okay, is there anyone online that wishes to provide comment on this item?
I see no one.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for the thorough. I'm going to close the public hearing. I want to thank staff for their thorough analysis. Read through all the project materials, including the mitigated negative declaration, and just wanted to say good job on that. I'm comfortable with the findings made in staff's report, and so with that, I am going to first determine that the mitigated negative declaration, state clearinghouse number 20260303433, is adequate to satisfy the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation and monitoring reporting program. That decision is based on the findings contained in the staff report. And I'm also going to approve a minor use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a 74-space recreational vehicle storage yard, and that is in accordance with County Code Section 1758-120. That decision is based upon the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff's report, which sounds like you've looked at. I'm also going to approve a design review agreement for the construction of the storage yard. That is in accordance with the design review agreement section of our ordinance, 1758-110. That is also based upon the findings contained in the staff report and subject to those same conditions of approval that are in the staff report. So that concludes my action on the item. Since we did not receive any public comment or anybody spoke here at the hearing today, I can waive the appeal period. The applicant is the only one that has the right to the appeal. And so you are free to go and start on your project. So thank you so much again for your patience. Appreciate you being here. And good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay, we're a little bit behind. We're going to move on to the 10:30 item. This is item number 7. Mr. Mitchell, hello. Okay. So this is, sorry, we put you at the very end. Sorry about that. Okay, this is the Mitchell Garage Front Edge of Road Easement Setback Variance, PLN 25-00337. This has been continued. I know it was continued to the last hearing, and I wasn't at that hearing, so I think we decided it was best to shift it to the May hearing. So with that, I'm just going to turn to staff. I haven't seen any public comment. I just want a really, really brief report on this since we've heard a lot of this already, okay? Thank you.
All right, I'll do my best. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Joe Plumley, Assistant Planner, presenting this item today. Staff requests the zoning administrator conduct a public hearing to consider the Mitchell as-built garage front edge of road easement setback variance and take the following actions. Determine the project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15303 and 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and section 183650 class 3 new construction or conversion of small structures and 183670 class 5 minor alterations in land use limitations of the Placer County Code, and approve a variance to allow for an unpermitted as-built 600 square foot attached garage to remain in place within the front setback, 10 feet 3 inches from the edge of road easement where a 50-foot front setback is normally required, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Trying to condense this down. The 5-acre property is located at 5640 Bell Road in Auburn, zone farm, combining minimum parcel size 4.6 acres. Land use designation of rural estate 4.6 to 10 acre. The parcel is developed with a 1,784 square foot single family dwelling built in 1969 and a permitted carport that was built in 1991. Per the zoning ordinance, front setbacks are measured at right angles from the front property line or edge of easement, whichever is greater. There is an easement in the front, so that 50-foot setback is measured from the edge of easement. There was a second carport built and attached to the house around 2008, but we couldn't find any permitting records of that. The applicant bought the house in 2023, and in May 2025, a code enforcement responded to a complaint about converting that unpermitted carport. A stop work order was issued, and the owner applied for a variance in August of 2025. Staff conducted a site visit in October 8th, 2025, verified that the as-built unpermitted attached garage did encroach 6 feet further into the front setback than the original attached carport. At the February 19th zoning administrator hearing, staff presented the variance report with a recommendation for denial, citing insufficient evidence for 3 out of the 6 mandatory findings. At this hearing, the applicant provided a supplemental information packet supporting his variance request. The zoning administrator took action to continue that item to March 12th, 2026, to allow staff time to review that supplemental information. On March 12th, staff presented a recommendation to uphold the original denial of the variance, still stating that 3 of the 6 required criteria remained unmet even after reviewing that supplemental information. The applicant did present his arguments and supplemental information at that hearing as well. After considering the findings, a site review and the staff report, the zoning administrator determined that all 6 criteria could be met and tentatively approved the variance to be heard at the April 16th hearing, and directed staff to revise the report to recommend approval and include the required 6 findings. On April 16th, staff requested continuance due to a scheduling conflict with the zoning administrator. The continuance was in order to maintain continuity with the presenting the variance and findings to Crystal Jacobson. So moving on to our analysis, following that March 12th zoning administrator hearing, staff reviewed the materials provided in the application, including the updated site plan, physical attributes of the project site, photographs taken during the site visit, aerial imagery, and the adjacent properties, materials and testimony provided throughout the public hearing process as well. And staff was able to determine that the findings required to grant the variance can be made and summarized below. Finding A, special circumstances, the parcel is constrained by a 50-foot canal and 50-foot pond setback. The existing infrastructure such as septic, wells, and propane on both sides of the house, and existing and planned orchards occupying remaining developable space. B, no special privileges. The front attached garages are a common single-family residential development. Finding C, no unauthorized use. Attached garages are a permitted accessory use under the parcel's farm FBX 4.6 acre minimum zoning. Finding D, no adverse impact. The garage is within the property boundary and will not impact neighboring properties, public health, safety, or welfare. Finding E, general plan consistency. Accessory residential uses, including garages, are permitted on rural estate 4.6 to 10 acre minimum parcels under both the Placer County General Plan and the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan. And lastly, finding F, the minimum departure. It was no alternative attachment point exists without conflicting with home infrastructure or agricultural operations, and the proposed location is consistent with the home's design and driveway access. So staff was able to conclude that the special circumstances were found. And because of these circumstances, the strict application of the zoning ordinance has been found to deprive the subject property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under similar zone classifications. There were no public comments received prior to this hearing, and I'm going to move on to a recommendation. Based on the analysis contained in the staff report, staff recommends the zoning administrator take the following actions. Determine the project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15.303 and 15.305 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and section 18.3650, class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures, and 18.3670, class 5, minor alterations in land use limitations of the Placer County Code, because the conversion of a carport into attached garage is an exempt project under class 3, and adjusting a setback is an exempt action under class 5 that would not result in the creation of any new parcel. There is no exception to this finding. And 2, approve the Mitchell as-built garage front edge of easement setback variance, PLN 25-00337, in accordance with Placer County Code Section 1760-100 variance, subject to the recommended conditions of approval and based on the findings contained in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is also present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any questions. I'm going to move on to environmental health. Anything to add?
No comments or conditions. Thank you.
Okay, and engineering and surveying. Anything to add?
Nope, engineering supports the staff's recommendation.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, do you want to come on up to the podium to state your name for the record?
Alan Mitchell, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and thanks for your patience. I got called to another hearing at the last meeting, so we had somebody fill in for me and thought it's best to keep the continuity here. So appreciate your.
It works for me.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You can take a seat. This is a public hearing, so I do need to open it up.
Can I just say one thing?
Of course you
I've
can.
spoken many words, asking and pleading for myself. I'd like to just say some words of gratitude and encouragement to you. You obviously have much bigger fish to fry, as I just see now. So I really appreciate what you do matter, and thank you for caring for each one of us. So
That's really, really nice to hear. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much. I know staff appreciates that. They work their tails off, so thank you for those words. Okay, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open up the public hearing and see, I don't see anybody in the room, but is there anybody online that wishes to provide comment on the item?
I see no one online.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to take action first, I'm going to determine that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then I am going to take action to approve the variance as requested. That is based upon staff's findings in the staff report and also based upon my findings that were outlined in the March zoning administrative hearing, including that there are some unique characteristics to the site, including the canal, 50-foot setback, some existing development on site, some orchards on site, existing leach field and setbacks to the leach fields, and then there is a pond also on site with a setback. So there are some circumstances that are unique to this property that I do believe provide a basis for the variance. And then I also want to note that this action here today is also subject to the conditions of approval outlined in the staff report, which the applicant has seen. And so that concludes the action on this item. Because we did not receive any public comment on this.
Madam Administrator.
Yes.
We didn't receive any public comment in advance of today's hearing. We did receive it in advance of February's hearing. So there would be public comment on this item.
We did. Okay. Okay. We did. I'm sorry about that. It's been a couple of hearings ago. Okay. Your appeal period is not waived. So since we received comments on the request, there is a 10-day appeal period before this decision becomes final. If anyone disagrees with my decision here today or feels that they have been adversely affected, they can file an appeal of my decision, and my decision would be set aside until such time that the appeal can be heard by the Planning Commission. Should an appeal be filed, it is subject to a filing fee of $774. And so because of that, because I can't waive it, you do have to wait that 10 days to see if an appeal is filed before you. Before you move forward with your garage. But I really appreciate your kind words and appreciate you bringing your structure into conformance, and best of luck to you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And with that, that concludes item number 7, and we have no further items on the agenda. So this concludes the May 21st, 2026 Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee hearing. Thank you very much.